Somebody called. All right, we're still waiting on Z. Um, but he's back. He's back. He's back. I don't know if me and Z are gonna do a whole Bruisers episode, so I might get him to stay on at the end, so we don't have to record two shows tonight. But I don't talk. I know this isn't a soccer podcast, but I just want to. There's probably three people that'll know what I'm talking about when I say this. I'm just, as a PSG fan, I'm upset about Neymar leaving. He's my favorite player. Left my favorite club. I've been wanting him to leave the club, but I've been wanting him to go to a power in Europe so he can get a chance to win the Ballon d'Or for Z and Bubba. The Ballon d'Or is basically the Heisman for the world of football. And yeah, so that sucks. And now he can't win the Champions League because he's in freaking Saudi Arabia. And yeah, I don't hate. Hate's a strong word. I dislike Kylian Mbappe because he's acting like a diva. He got Neymar pushed out, and he's leaving anyways. So Real Madrid, you can have him, and that's all I'm gonna say. PSG is gonna be good in 3 years. Just watch. But I'm ready for the Mbappe chapter to be over because he's just acting like an absolute diva. He has way too much say in everything that we do as a front office, and I'm tired of it. So that's I just had to get that off my chest. Because I've been talking about it a lot today with people, and just I was watching Neymar clips last night before I went to bed, just holding my pillow and about shed a tear, man. Just that guy plays beautifully. With that being said, I'll let Kohi lead us into SEC.
Hey, how are we doing?
Hey, man,
Z?
we're good.
Z, you need something off your chest?
No,
All right.
I'm good for now.
Clean chest. Hey, anything we
He's
got,
good for now.
whatever we need, it's fine. So it says this is actually a podcast slash therapy for these three guys.
That's right.
It's a therapy. This is our drug. Could be other drugs used during. Who knows what goes on? But hey,
Well,
that's fine. I mean, I'm clean over here. I'm just saying, y'all too. That's on y'all.
okay.
It's on y'all. What y'all do behind that screen is on you. But hey, for the folks on Spotify, Jiffy, give it a spin. YouTube, I suggest you go listen to that song because it's a hell of a tune. All right, so G said lead us into SEC. I say biased. Let's save the best for last. We're gonna hit ACC first.
Okay.
SEC will follow. Big dogs get to go last. Save it for it. Also, I think ACC is gonna be a little bit of a thinner talk. Fewer teams. Obviously, me and Joe are gonna have to hit our teams, not necessarily say where we finish, but ACC, I got 3 written down. All right, and I think I'm gonna have the same 3 as Z. If he has 4, we can go into the 4th one. But last week we started from the bottom, right?
Yeah.
We didn't lead off first. All right. 3rd place, Z. Are we touching base on your dark horse?
No, I still think North Carolina is a dark horse.
Hey,
They have a tough schedule and a tough week 1 game against South Carolina. But look, they got the quarterback to do it. So they got a great football coach. So, anything's possible, but they have been kind of like middle of the pack as years late. And, they had Mitchell Trubisky, who was the number 2 overall pick, which he didn't turn out to be much, but you still had him. And now you have Drake May, who's, second best quarterback in college football. So you've had the quarterbacks to do it. It's just putting the pieces around them to get it done. So you never know. But it is a stronger ACC conference than I think it has been top to bottom last couple of years.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's more, in my opinion, it's that 3rd 9 spot that are tougher, right? I still think we all know here it's going to be Clemson, Florida State, 1, 2, however you flip it. I think them two do have a little separation in the 3 spot. I do get UNC in the 3 spot as well. Just kind of to touch base on last year, 9-1 start came out. I mean, they were really making noise. Obviously, 9-1, you make it pretty deep, and then to finish 9-5 after the bowl game is just tough. They lose to Georgia Tech, they lose to NC State, they lose to Clemson, lose to Oregon. But like Z said, as far as positives for this year, Drake May, second or third team All-American, depending on what website you look at. I would say the experience, which is something I always talk about, it seems like defense allowed 31 a game, got 8 starters back. That's a little bit of one of those experiences coming back, but it's not great experience, right? That was always what the problem was the defense last year. But got some transfers. I think kind of like Z said, I think they can make a run, and I don't know. I mean, they can knock on the door. Who knows if Florida State loses to someone different, but beats Clemson, and kind of lowers the first place team. Like it's not just a Clemson that ran the table. Who knows if UNC can stay within striking distance? It'll be fun. I just think the story here is Drake May. Honestly, got sacked 40 times last year. I saw that, so they're gonna have to tighten that up a little bit. But yeah, Drake May, hell of a quarterback. He's called it from the get go. A little dark horse action. Jiffy, if you got anything on UNC, drill them.
No, yeah, I think you put it best when you said Clemson and Florida State are kind of ahead of the pack in this conference, but I think most people would probably have North Carolina as that third, so I have no problems with it. I mean, you guys kind of hit everything, but I think those are top 3 in the ACC for sure. I don't
Z,
think
do you got
there's
another? You got another 3 or 4 that you want to talk?
No, North Carolina's my 3. I think Miami's an interesting team though in the ACC. They have a lot of talent. They've Cristobal's done well recruiting, even though this I think will just be his second year. But he's a Miami guy. He's a hell of a recruiter. He recruited great at Oregon, so he's got recruits coming in the transfer portal. You can flip the script in a year. So I think Miami's an interesting team to look out for. But I don't think they're right now, based off preseason, I don't think they're the team that kind of jumps in my mind ahead of North Carolina.
Yeah, I don't have either one jumping in front of them. The only other 2 I jotted down was obviously Miami, Tyler Van Dyke. You just never know if you're going to get the heads or tails.
Yep.
Tyler Van Dyke, I feel like, I mean, a talented player, just kind of a wild card on Saturdays. And then I got Louisville as a little sleeper. I think they're a talented team and kind of changed out some coaching, changed out some pieces in the portal and stuff like that. So I think they're a sleeper as far as middle of the pack. I don't think either one are really making noise for that first place hunt. With that being said, let's just talk Clemson. I know you got them 1. I've got them 2. I'm getting a little bold here.
Georgia Tech's my 1.
11-3, ACC champion.
At a baby Z.
Hell yeah.
Hard not to. I mean, what would college football be without Clemson being top 10 at least? I mean, we've put them in the same boat as Bama this year, right? Got written off a little bit, even though they double-digit win last year. Yeah, it's weird to have them not written off, but a bounce back year when, I think if they don't make this playoff, it'll be 3 years in a row, and that's just weird. The way it started, they were in it every single year. It seemed like the Clemson, Bama, Natty repeats, and that whole trilogy it was. I mean, it's just awkward without them being good. They're going to have a good, tough physical defense per usual. I think it's going to come down to new OC Garrett Riley, who, in my mind, has dealt, I mean, some people would say pocket aces with Will Shipley and Cade Klubnik. I mean, they're right there, right? There's your guns blazing. They're on your hips. It's a matter, can they put it together and do it? Z, take it away from Clemson.
Yeah, well, Clemson's my number 1. I'm high on Clemson. I think there's a bigger gap between Clemson and Florida State than you think and most people think. Just based off Cade Klubnik, Shipley, just the coaching staff they have around them, the recent program history, the kind of recruiting they're in, the kind of just system they have built around those guys, whether that's on the football field, off the field, just as a program as of recent. Clemson's still that team, I think. And look, they lost Trevor Lawrence and they thought they had DJU coming in and he was going to, be this great quarterback that he was built up to be, especially just based off arm talent and size just alone. And it just didn't work out. So you got a 5-star kid who was, I think he was the number 1 or number 2 recruited quarterback when he came out of high school. Showed flashes last year when he got in the games. He made a couple mistakes as a true freshman, but I think with a whole off season to train, then you get into training camp, really have a full blown understanding of the offense, especially running with the ones consistently. I I think they're bound for success. They're going to have a couple tests early in the year, so we'll see what happens. But I think Clemson wins the ACC and they're back in the playoff.
Yeah, and they do. Looking at it, I mean, you got to love you get Florida State and UNC at home, who we just said are my 1, your 2 and 3. So the schedule's favorable, I think. You go to Duke, not too crazy at Miami. Don't love that, and then obviously at South Carolina, which doesn't mean anything to the ACC. But yeah, I don't know. Just it's gonna be weird, man. Like without them in the playoff, I feel like the last 2, like that's my team. I almost feel weirder without them in the playoff than I do Bama. As dumb as that is to say, with Bama winning it so much, I feel like Clemson was just always kind of that guaranteed ticket, right? 5 years ago when the ACC was a lot more down, it was like, okay, there's our one season pass that always gets it. They're going to run the table in the ACC. They're going to get in the playoffs. So I like that the conferences. We talked Pac-12 being deeper. I like that the East Coast too is a little deep. At least having 3 threats, right? Even if it doesn't turn out these exactly the prediction we say, to preseason really have 3 teams that you feel like can make a push at it. It's a lot more fun than, like I said, saying Clemson, okay, 12-0, but can they really beat Bama? Can they beat these guys to make it to the national championship? So good competition, gotta love it. Jeef, if you want anything with Clemson and old Dabo.
Yeah, I think Clemson will probably be my number 1. I think I've been pretty vocal on Florida State. I just don't think that this is the year that they do it. And you just said it. They got Dabo Swinney. I think that they've got a better quarterback now. I think Z kind of hit the nail on the head with DJ. I think he came in with a lot of hype, but you got to have a lot of hype if you're coming in after somebody like Trevor Lawrence, who won a national championship and a Heisman. So yeah, I think Clemson. This is the year that they step back into that contention, and if they don't, I think it's a failure of a season for them because I think the only real competition they have this year is Florida State.
Yeah, and I think I do want to mention, which obviously Florida State's at my 1, a little opposite of these 2. But I mean, I think for sure we're seeing it twice now. The ACC is done with divisional. I think we see it week 4, and then they match back up again for the ACC championship. So regardless who takes week 4, I love that Florida State gets that week 1 versus LSU and very hostile. Want to win it, especially after last game. It seemed kind of flukish the way Florida State won, even though LSU had to push at the end to even make an almost comeback. But I love Florida State getting that big time game week 1. Go to Clemson week 4, obviously on the road. You don't love that, but Jordan Travis, and I preached about Keon Coleman, the Michigan State wide receiver. I think he's going to be big time for Florida State. And then the defense gave up 20 a game last year, so pretty respectable. This year, it's really, man, just that LSU game, and as I talked about, Clemson and South Carolina game really doesn't pertain to the ACC as far as ranking wise, who's going to finish higher. But at Clemson, that's your biggest test. You get Miami at home, you go to Wake, you go to Pitt. If you're Florida State, you don't have to face Drake May, which not really sure why you'd like to. So there's your another Clemson, at least, facing UNC. I gave it either way, regardless, I think we see it twice this year. I think we see it week 4, and I think we see it conference championship week. So I'm excited about the ACC. I don't know. I think the Pac-12 is. I'm putting so much attention on it. You still giving the nod to out west, Z, or you like the competition on the East Coast? They both got it, but I'm saying as far as that 3 to 8 spot.
I mean, I'm an ACC guy just because I'm a Georgia Tech fan, so I've always just watched the ACC, always liked the ACC. But I will say, I think just top to bottom, I think the Pac-12 is a little stronger. Just with because I think the ACC right now, just looking preseason, the teams that are going to be competitive and have just a strong roster, just obviously Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina. And then you got the mixed in, like Miami's going to have talent. Louisville's going to have some talent. Who knows what NC State's going to be? Who knows what Georgia Tech's going to be? Who knows what Duke's going to be? Who knows what Virginia and Virginia Tech? So there's so many more question marks, I think, in the ACC rather than out west in the Pac-12. I mean, you got the USC, UCLA, Utah, Oregon. I think there's more stronger teams out there and more competitive teams top to bottom in the Pac-12 this year.
Yeah, I like how you put that. I think all you're looking for established, right? Out west, it's very established, and we know an ACC random. Whether I hope it's Z's dark horse UNC, who may not be the darkest because they are, they're 9-1 last year. But we know even if it's not them, like you said, Miami had a lot of hype this year, kind of getting swept under the rug after they kind of choked last year. Who knows? They pop up and they're the 2 seed or make a push at first place. Like, definitely think there's always a team in the ACC that kind of shocks everybody. So I agree with that. It's a little more established out west. I think I'm in the same boat. But I feel like we cut the ACC a little short. Sorry about it if you're an ACC fan, but the big dogs are coming. I think everybody's got some knowledge, not a lot of pen and paper involved with this conference. Call us homers if you want. We all live in the South. As Z said, ACC guy, Georgia Tech guy, me, a Mississippi State Bulldog, Joe G, and Ole Miss. Depends on the year what they're calling themselves, but I think we've all got the knowledge, right? We're ready.
I mean, yeah. I'm an ACC guy. I'm a Georgia Tech fan, but I love the SEC, brother.
All right, I think we got it. This is gonna be the only conference we lead off with the home run hitter. All right, I want to talk about them. We've elaborated on them. Big games this year. We broke down a month ago. They were in that boat. A couple big games this year, but for the most part, cupcake schedule is being talked about a lot. Georgia Bulldogs 29-1 last 2 years, back-to-back natties, looking for the three-peat. Kirby Smart has locked and reloaded. Right, he's got that kind of Saban a few years ago mentality, or makeup to him. They're sending guys out the door to the league, and they come back in, and there's no difference. Right, they're changing names, but the numbers are the same. It seems like they're all built the same, fast, strong guys. This year, I think the main hype is obviously Brock Bowers. Incredible football player, and we're going to start off with a little hot take. Incredible football player. The hype around him as a tight end is, I get it. It's great, but at the same time, you got to get a tight end of football, right? And I don't know. He's going to be great. There's no doubt about it. But when that's your key piece, it's almost, the Kyle Pitts, right? Florida was good that year, and he's a freak. I don't know. I think Kirby's not scared of it. He's not shying away like Carson Beck. He's got his guy and stuff. But in the back of his mind, it's somewhere he's got to realize, man, this year we got to do a little more reloading than usual. Like they had guys coming in that defense steadily. And the defense is going to be physical. It's going to be top 10, no doubt. But it's fun this year to think that Georgia's not this unreachable god, right? Like I really do think they're strikeable, even if it does take to the SEC championship. I think last year, in most people's mind, and it's some of the people that are NFL over college, I think this is their argument. Like week 2, week 3, you're like, damn, Georgia's doing it again. Like it was a lock almost. So talk Georgia for me. Talk Carson Beck, Brock Bowers, Kirby Smart. Give it all to me, Z.
Yeah. Obviously, I'm not a Georgia fan, but no bias here. They're going to be good. They're not my team. I think if they slip up, looking at it, it's probably the SEC championship game, but you never know. Who knows what Auburn's going to be? If Auburn runs out there and they're a talented football team and Hugh Freeze got them boys, back to it, Georgia's got to go to Auburn early in the year. I think it's like
Game 5.
Yeah, week 5. Yeah, they got to go to Auburn week 5, and then if they get past that, which I'm sure they will, just based off just of all the changes and reload and Auburn's going to have to do this year. I mean, I think their next toughest test is just at Tennessee in November. So other than that, I think they could slip up in one of those 2 games. Outside of that, they're just going to have more talent on the football field and can, pull out close games if need be. Carson Beck apparently, is supposed to be the guy. It hasn't been named yet. Brock Vandergrift's another stupid talented kid who they have over there and the thing with Carson Beck is he's a pocket passer. He's not very mobile. He doesn't run at all. So who knows? If you look at it last year or the year before, JT Daniels was supposed to be the guy at Georgia. He kept getting hurt, but every time he came back, he'd go back out there. But Kirby kept going to Stetson. because I think he trusted Stetson, and Stetson had, some escapability and he could run the football. It's not like they ever called design runs for him, but if he needed to get out of the pocket, he could. And that's something Brock Vandergriff can do that Carson Beck can't. So they're both getting first team reps every day at practice. So there hadn't been a starter announced, so we'll see. Brock Bowers is the real deal. He's a top 5 player in college football, and he's going to be a first-round pick. Look, the difference between him and Kyle Pitts is it's a different offensive scheme. I think Georgia's – they're fine with running the football up the middle, running outside and throwing, quick outs or posts or slants to Bowers and just getting the ball in his hand, or even spreading them out wide in the slot, get him off the line and do some screens, that kind of thing. So they're going to feed him. They're still going to have talented running backs. Kendall Milton's probably one of the best running backs in football. He just can't stay healthy. He's already hurt again with a hamstring. So it's going to be interesting. So they're not my team. But look, I think they're going to be good. I think outside of Auburn, who's on the fringe of even being a close game, Tennessee is going to be the toughest test till the SEC championship game. But they just have a cakewalk schedule every year. It's just ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, and I'm gonna hit their schedule real quick and then give it to G. But like you said, at Auburn week 5, and before that they get South Carolina at home week 3. We saw how they kind of upset Tennessee after Tennessee had already lost to Georgia last year. Don't know how much you can weigh into that. And then, like you said, after that, get Ole Miss at home week 10, Kentucky at home week 6. Like there's not a lot. Ole Miss will be a test, but like I said, it's at Georgia, and then that at Tennessee game. If Milton can be good, man, how fun is that game going to be though? Especially after last year, when like we talked about a couple weeks ago, South Carolina somewhat ruined Tennessee's season, but I think you look through everything, and man, that Georgia game that crushed them. Right, they were all-time high. The way they beat Bama, felt like what do they say? Felt like '98, and then Georgia just hey, slow your roll, baby, still king of the East. So I think this game could be such a revenge game, especially if Tennessee can uphold their end and be, 9-1, 10-0, whatever it is, however many they play. But G, talk to us about these dogs over in the East.
Hey man, it's hard. Y'all are a hard act to follow because y'all just obliterate everything we talk about. I think there's a couple question marks on that offensive side for Georgia. Obviously, Stetson Bennett was there for as long as you possibly can be with the COVID years. And he did a fantastic job, obviously won 2 natties. So I think the defense is going to be as tough as it always is. It's just going to be whether they can score points and whether they can score points away. They have a bunch of big tests at home, but I think y'all are both right about that Tennessee game. I think obviously we're talking really early. Cohee's hit that a million times. Like we don't know what Joe Milton's going to look like. We don't know what Spencer Rattler and South Carolina are going to look like when it's time for them to play. But I like Georgia to come out of the East. I think Kirby has a way of making those guys think that they are the biggest underdogs in the world when everybody else is expecting them to annihilate. So I think those lull games are the ones that they're going to be looking maybe their toughest. I hope they're not when Ole Miss comes to town, but I'll see them going undefeated into the SEC championship and winning the SEC East. And ultimately, I think it's going to be whether they can hang with Alabama or LSU, because I think that's one of those two are going to come out of the West.
So Z, who's your second team? I'll let you take it.
Georgia's my second team.
Who's one?
Alabama.
Roll Tide. Lead us off with Roll Tide.
Ask me after Z talks about those freaking.
Oh yeah, you're definitely going. If he wouldn't have named him as his number one, now that he's one, he's gotta lead us off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alabama's going to win the national championship. Alabama's going to be the best team in football. I'm extremely confident that they will win the SEC, be back in the playoff, and ultimately be the national champion again. The only problem they have, only questions and concerns they have, is obviously the quarterback position. But
it's a big question to have.
If Nick Saban's not worried, then I'm not worried. He's coming off smiling after press conferences, laughing at press conferences, just having a good time. Look, if they can throw the ball, they can throw the ball. But Alabama and that Nick Saban run team is not the type of team that has to go out there and spin it 60 times to win a game when they don't have to. They're going to have 3 to 4 running backs who are going to be able to absolutely tote the rock, and their defense is going to be loaded. They'll have a top 3 defense in the country. And if they can't spin it 50, 60 times to win a game, they will run the ball down your throat, wear you out, and play defense like the old Alabama before Bryce Young came in there. So they have a little bit more weapons, I think, from top to bottom than any other team in the country. And as long as the quarterback can make the throws he's got to make, and he doesn't turn the ball over, look, if they don't have a Bryce Young, nobody's going to have a Bryce Young. They'll, like I said, they'll tote the rock, they'll pound it up the middle, and they'll wear you out. So I'm high on Alabama. I think Alabama will be the SEC champion and be the national champion as well.
Can I interject? Because I do want to – no, Z, look, I get it, all right? Alabama's Alabama. But I think in today's day and age, especially with Georgia's defense being as tough as they are in the trenches, if Milroe isn't the guy and they don't have a certified guy, maybe in the time of Mark Ingram and King Henry, you can pound it down somebody's throat. I just don't see them going into an SEC championship and being able to pound it down Georgia's throat the whole game. If Georgia has a good offense. Now, Georgia's not even my number one, but we can get. I'm a freaking underdog on this list, baby, and I love it. I love it. Alabama's still in my top 3. Don't get it twisted. I'm not an idiot, but I'm not saying they're not going to win the national championship and they're not going to win the SEC championship, but I have to see some things on offense before I say they're going to do it, because you can say the same thing as last year. Like, yeah, it was 2 plays that they didn't go in the playoffs because of. Alabama fans were making me laugh, thinking that they deserve to be in the playoff. Yeah, you can be the 4th best team in the nation, but you lost 2 games. Okay, if you're the 4th best team in the nation, you wouldn't have lost those 2 games. Anyways, I'm not gonna go to the past. That's not what I do. I don't disagree with anything that you said. I just don't think that they're gonna be able to pound it. Like when they play these defenses that haven't been together a long time, like Ole Miss obviously is going to have a transfer portal filled defense. And there's going to be a lot of other – thank God we're not going to be playing everybody drop back this year because we got Golding in now. But they're going to be able to do that to some defenses. But I think running it down Mississippi State's throat, running it down Georgia's throat is going to be hard to do. And I don't shout out State much, but they've got a tough D-line, and I'm going to be unbiased. You're welcome.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, that's, it's not a terrible take. That's the way the game of football is now. Everybody's throwing the ball, and the way you're calling plays in the new offenses, or you got to spin the ball to, score some points and win some games. But I think if it comes down to it, Nick Saban's confident enough where he can just, go back to what got him there, which is running the football, short to medium passes, and playing defense. And
right.
At the end of the day, there's not a lot of defenses out there that are built to stop the run on a consistent basis now. Everybody's worried about, being able to keep the receivers in front of them and limit those explosive plays in the air. So, Georgia's going to be talented in the trenches, but this is still Alabama. They're going to be extremely talented in the trenches. They're going to have, highly ranked, highly recruited offensive linemen who are going to be able to control the trenches. So, and who's to say by the time Alabama does go play Georgia in the SEC championship that they don't have a quarterback who's confident spinning the ball, So I think as a balanced team, they're the most balanced team in football on each side of the football.
We'll touch a little Roll Tide before we move on. I want to say, as far as looking back at last and being a written off team, and do we give them the benefit of the doubt if they're not Bama? Probably not, or maybe not as much. And I get they won by 1 at Texas. They won by 4 versus a bad A&M. They won by 6 on the road in Oxford. I get they had 3 close ones, but we're forgetting they went 11-2 and lost by 3 and 1.
Yeah,
I feel like 2 football games by 4 that are right there. And I get it. They lost the games, and you can argue that Texas could have went the other way. So there's arguments to both sides. I think my nod here is the LSU game this year is in T-Town, right? That's a huge one. It always seems like it's the West championship pretty much in recent years. Man, I think the best way to say it, it's not it's not as the talent there. It's how fast can they put it together. It's there. It's on the field, and they've got to put it together. And the Q is a big question, like Joe said. But I think when you flip that card and you got Jason McClellan at running back, I think he's going to be unreal just because he's a senior and he's a 4-year. He played all 4 years, no red shirt involved. I think that means a lot, especially at Alabama. He's a guy who's been the whole iron sharpens iron has been going at him for 3 years now. So this 4th year, I think is going to be big. This year, their biggest game is in T-Town. I think that means a lot. So the schedule is always a bit of a tough one because, you are in the SEC West still. So you do got those weird games at Starkville, at A&M this year versus Tennessee at home and LSU at home. I think are the two big ones, though. Right? Bama's proven they can get through the test of playing at A&M, playing at Starkville. Versus the Arkansas tricky game. They've proven that year in, year out. So I think your two biggest ones are at home, and that means a lot to me. I got them at 2. I just couldn't give them the nod against Georgia. Being the 29-1 in the last 2 years is the one that that stat number is just retarded. Like, it's stupid to even say 29-1, 2 natties. So next off,
I got one more thing on Alabama, and I want to ask you both this question: is with all these question marks that Kohi talked about, we got to see this with Alabama. Do those question marks get nullified to everyone, especially people who know ball, like the two of you in front of me? Does those questions get nullified because who wears the headset? Nick Saban. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of question marks he has because he's going to go out there with the recruits that he has, and he's going to put something together no matter what.
Yeah, I think he has answered that. Like, as far as just as many guys he's gone and, next man up type of deal that he's done for a decade now.
Yeah.
I think you almost have to kind of. Kirby's on his way to building the same makeup. So I'll say that. I think Dabo almost nullified in a way. It's still Clemson, right? It's still Dabo Swinney.
It's not like they haven't been at the top of the ACC even on their down years.
Right. Like last year, they literally won the ACC championship by like 20 points and ran the table in the ACC, 9-0 in the ACC. So they had some L's. But I think Dabo's in that boat. I think Saban is obviously the captain of the boat for now, but
right.
I think that torch will get passed again. Like Kirby is building his house, and it's coming very fast. That he's about to be in the same boat he's already getting some of it, being back-to-back natty. Like, it's Georgia. We're sitting here talking about they're reachable this year, and all three of us literally said, yeah, probably in the SEC championship 12-0. Like, how reachable are we really talking about on the scale of 14, 15 game season if you win the natty? Like, we're talking about maybe the best of the SEC gets him the second test. Like, Tennessee's going to be a top 5 team, I think. So I've got a 4, but I'm just saying top 5 to most. And we're really not even. We touched on it, Georgia at Tennessee, but even I think Kirby same day. And
You still want to see them do it on the field and stuff,
Hey,
but
Bubba,
I think
you froze a little bit when you were talking there at the end. So if you want to just
no, all I finished up with saying was froze.
you literally just froze up right when you said all.
Yeah, you're good. I see you were frozen now, or we're
Okay.
good.
Sorry.
I was saying Kirby is on his way to building the same, not identical house, but let's just say he's building a house in the same neighborhood as Saban, if that makes sense. He's reloading pretty much identical to how Saban was. This Bennett guy, let's say this Mac Jones guy, goes out, and now guess what? Another guy, Carson Beck, suddenly is taking the road, and guess what? Probably they're going to be 12-0. Let's be honest.
that comparison's a little tough because Mac Jones was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school, and Stetson Bennett was a walk-on who went to junior college after he walked on.
I just feel like Stetson won the one, and we still didn't get him the nod after they won it.
Yeah, Stetson had a great career at Georgia, and he earned his way on the field. And once he got on there, he popped off. But look, Kirby's running a great show at Georgia. He's not close to Saban yet, in my opinion. Saban's built a dynasty at Alabama that's going to reign forever, most likely. And he won at LSU as well. So, I mean, the guy's a proven winner. And, yeah, he's had a lot of talent come in. I mean, let's not forget he had, Jalen Hurts, Tua, Mac Jones, Bryce Young. I mean, yeah, he's had talent, but, I mean, he's I think still, a good bit away out in front against Kirby. But to go on these question marks we have, it's more of like, yeah, you still want to see him do it on the field and prove it to you so you can see it with your eyes. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still Nick Saban, and I'm confident in saying, look, he's going to have some type of plan figured out coming into week one, especially coming into week two against Texas. He's going to know, look, we can't go out there and spin the ball 50 times. So downfield. So we got to create it. We got to, run the ball, screens, shorter passes, stuff like that. And I mean, I think their defense is going to be good. They're going to have one of the best secondaries, especially with Kool-Aid McKinstry, who's the best DB in the country. And they still got Dallas Turner coming back. So look, they're going to be very good. And I'm excited to see it play out. But they will have a tough test week two against Texas. But it is in Tuscaloosa. They have a good home schedule this year. So I think it kind of –
this is their – yeah, I mean, Tennessee and LSU both at home. Obviously, that's like I said, I mean, that's all you – as a Bama fan, you got to have those two at home, or you really want them at home, obviously, especially losing, both of them, those two being your only two loss last year on the road. Nice to get a little revenge and back at home. But, yeah, I mean, I think – and I just want to go back, and we'll get off of it after this. As far as going back to the house comparison in the neighborhood, whatever, I think Kirby's poured his slab and got his lot, right? Like he's on his way, but yes, I agree. He's a long way from living in it, retired in it, whatever you want to say Saban has done. So I agree. I just think Georgia right now, these back-to-back, and it's only 2 years, sure. I mean, just unbelievable. Like 29, and the way they beat people. And like you said, they do have a favorable schedule every year. But even last year, the Tennessee game, like it was hyped up so much, and it was almost like another walk in the park. So to go to the third team.
And look, at the end of the day, like Kirby's picking who he's playing in the non-conference years out.
Right.
Like Saban made the decision to do a home and home with Texas. Kirby made the decision to play
do a home and home with Ball
State.
State.
Martin and Ball State. Like, what are we doing? Like, it's that he just wants to. It's almost like he's just letting these guys get reps and just playing it safe rather than, let's go play some I mean, look, you can look at it both ways. Saban wants to put on good games and he wants to test his guys and go up against good talent. And it does turn out Texas will be eventually in the SEC next year. But I mean, that's because I'm an NFL guy first above college football. And it's the main reason is the Ball States, the UABs, the UT Martins playing Georgia, rather than NFL week one, you're getting an NFL team against an NFL team. So the just competition of football is just where I'm at on it. But that's just the main thing that kind of bothers me with Kirby Smart in Georgia is they get that nice cakewalk schedule, and then they come into these big games, and yeah, they're winning and they're winning good, but they're stupid talented and healthy for the most part, because it's not like they don't play a hard SEC schedule either. So they never have to really get tested and have that kind of thought in their head, like, damn, could we lose this game?
Right. Sure. And
it
like
goes
you said,
both ways.
yeah, but I mean, like you said, the health thing is huge because, I mean, as these two guys up top, fans of SEC teams, when you get in the mix of that little gauntlet, you're dropping probably 2 to 3 starters, I'd say, when it's 4 weeks in a row. I mean, you can't sit there and tell me Quinn Ewers goes out against South Texas, right? He's not getting hurt again. He goes out against Bama, and then it changes Texas's. But Texas wants to play big boy football. They wanted to play Bama. They were finally agreed to it. So I do agree with that. That's a great point. Like Saban picking Texas years out, he knows they're going to be at least – it's going to be a nationwide big-time game. I mean, it's 2 brands of football right there. So why can't Georgia pick Michigan in 4 years, So that's a good point. I do want GP to –
I don't know. I mean, let's not act like Alabama hasn't called and gotten a home series with Presbyterian for 5 years in a row. Like,
Oh well, yeah, they're not going to go
it's not
because Michigan, Ohio State.
Saban's just calling all the powerhouses to play in the preseason. I think that just happens to be one that they got a lot of money for because it's probably the two biggest football programs in the nation, maybe besides LSU. And obviously, yeah, you want to challenge your guys, but I mean, especially for Kirby being so early, like compared to Saban, he's very early on in his tenure at Georgia. As long as Saban's been at Alabama, I just think right now he's trying to build the confidence of that dynasty to where when he's like, okay, I do this every year, maybe he starts doing it. But also, he's not going to have a choice pretty soon because I assume that Texas will be in the East, and I assume they'll add some more to the East. But yeah, so I agree. Like, I'm not saying that Saban doesn't challenge his guys. Absolutely, he does. But they've also played Presbyterian. Like, they played Presbyterian like 3 years in a row.
I mean,
I had to look this up just because.
Yeah. I mean, 2018 they opened with Louisville. 2019 they opened with Duke.
All right, Z, you were in the same boat as me. I went farther back.
Yeah,
I only did this because I thought I remembered it. 14 West Virginia, 15 Wisconsin, 16 USC.
Yeah, I mean they're going out here and playing these games right off the rip when Georgia's playing, Chat State, UT Martin, and Middle Tennessee, and like.
I don't know. I see
In
both sides of it because he is keeping his guys healthy.
2020 they didn't open up with them, they did. I mean, 2020 was COVID, so it was all 2021 they opened with Miami.
He's definitely done it since
and they destroyed them. Miami. When's the last time Miami was good?
But Miami's a brand of football. Yeah.
So are we talking about challenging them, or are we talking about a big name?
I mean,
every year, as far as I've gone back and let's go back
like
to
Louisville, is that really a test unless Lamar Jackson's behind center in the last 10 years for an SEC team?
Since 2008, they've opened with at least a comparable non-conference team or somebody in the ACC. Because they were doing, for that longest period of time, they were doing the SEC, ACC, Chick-fil-A kickoff game in the Georgia
Yes,
Dome.
Ole Miss played in that against Florida State.
So they've always had that SEC, ACC game lined up.
Right.
When Georgia's lining up with mid-majors.
It's fired up. I like it. I didn't realize.
Look, I don't even remember an SEC East team ever being in the Chick-fil-A Bowl, in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. Has there ever been an SEC team? All right, so what's the call on Georgia? We're not calling out Tennessee, or we're not calling out
because Tennessee's not winning back-to-back natties.
Exactly.
This is the first year. So you're talking about Saban scheduling those games years ahead. He just finished winning his second one. Maybe he has scheduled a big home and home series with somebody.
When did Kirby get the job at Georgia? 18? 17?
Yeah, I was gonna say 16. I might be too early.
Has it been that long already?
No way. I'll start 17. 2017, they opened up with App State.
App State. That's just as comparable as a opening home game and then Louisville. App State upsets people every year. Dude, don't shake your head at me.
2018, Austin P.
When did Saban schedule these Texas games? I promise it was 4 to 5 years ahead. These schedules are already made for next year. They already know who they're playing next year.
2019.
And 3 years
Murray
from
State.
now.
These fucking
Dude, all I'm saying is
2021 they opened with Clemson.
There you go.
And that was the 10-3 game that was so hyped up that ended up sucking.
Oh my gosh, Clemson's more notable than any other team that you've said Alabama's played.
If you're scheduling in advance, you do USC and Texas. I think those Kirby eventually has to pull out a Michigan, a USC, a Texas. It has to be a brand of football.
Clemson's not a brand of football?
It is. I'm
Yes,
saying
they
that's
are.
one. Now that he's done USC, Wisconsin's a big brand. Texas is a big brand. Miami, like you said, may not be a test, but it's one of the biggest brands in football.
I'm not. I'm not gonna act like y'all earlier said West Virginia too.
Scheduled
West,
West Virginia like 2014, 15.
West Virginia,
West Virginia was good, dude.
bro. That whatever that guy's name is, highlight tape. What the hell have they had since that guy? And Will
Yeah, but that
Myers
was that. Huh?
and Florida's transfer quarterback who had one good season there. Whatever. You guys
No,
can have it.
West Virginia had this big, tall, white quarterback. Can't remember his damn name, but he had always had concussions, but he could sling it. He was on that team. He was so good too.
All right. Well, y'all can have it 2-1. Let's jump to my number one.
Yeah, let's keep G
haven't
fired
talked
up. He's going his dark horse LSU. Come on.
Let me tell you. Let me let you in on a little
what
secret.
happens on SEC Pod Week, baby.
Number three, Bama. Too many question marks for me. Number 2, Georgia. Number 1, and I freaking love them, LSU, baby. Go Tigers. I love Jaden Daniels, and I love Brian Kelly, and me and Bubba said it last year about the third week, or it was the week when Alabama got beat by LSU. We said we know ball because we said Brian Kelly was going to do something special. After he dropped that first game at Florida State, I was worried. I said, I don't know. I don't know if this was the right move. That was too premature. He gets in, he gets settled, and he wins the SEC West in his first year in the SEC. Now we're going year 2. He's got an experienced quarterback behind center. My personal pick for the Heisman. And I think I'm not saying they're going to absolutely pull it out. I think the safe picks are Georgia and Alabama, but I love a good dark horse. So I'm going with the LSU Tigers, baby. I think that defense, especially the DB room, is a revolving door of first-round talent. And I think if you want to be a defensive back, me and Bubba have said it since we were in middle school, if you want to be a defensive back, there's no better helmet to put on than that yellow gold helmet with the purple LSU on it with that little tiger in the middle. So I'm excited to watch LSU. I think they're going to be a really exciting team, and Jaden Daniels with a year of SEC West football under his belt, it's going to be fun. So Z, tell me why I'm wrong.
I'm not nearly as high on LSU as Joe is, obviously. From the SEC is going to be ran by Alabama, in my opinion. And I'm not. Look, Brian Kelly's a great coach, and I'm a believer in Brian Kelly, and he can coach some football. He can coach any type of player at any team. I'm not big on Jaden Daniels. Be honest with you, I don't think he's a great quarterback.
Amateur hour.
And I also think him being first team SEC is a stretch, in my opinion.
Who's it going to be? Milrow? All right, I'm done.
No, Jane Daniels is preseason first team All-American.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
If I made it and my first team quarterback, it would either be, I'd probably lean KJ Jefferson just based off what he's done.
Stop.
Just based off what he's done look, the SEC is it's a weak quarterback conference this year with a lot of unproven.
I agree. But KJ Jefferson over Jaden Daniels, he just won the SEC West.
I'm just not a big believer in Jane Daniels. I think when it comes down to big-time games, he's not a big-time player. I think he struggles with accuracy on medium-level throws. And I think he's a little bit injury-prone. He likes to get outside the pocket, but he doesn't like to stay in the pocket, move up in the pocket, and that's something you got to be able to do within a Brian Kelly offense. I'd even put Joe Milton and Will Rogers right there on the edge to be first-team SEC. Will Rogers is one of the best throwing quarterbacks in the SEC, arm talent-wise, outside of Joe Milton. I'm just not big on Jane Daniels. I'm not big on LSU. They're my fourth team.
LSU is my 3. All right, they're my top 3. I think I gave the nod. Like I said, I had to go 1 to the Dogs. I mean, the rest there, whatever. I give them the nod. I gave Bama the nod with LSU game being in T-Town. Let's talk LSU. And the thing that bounces really off the paper to me last year, 4 L's, right? The fluke, Florida State, whatever you call it whatever you want. The other ones lose to Tennessee by 27. at home, lose to a bad A&M team by 15 at A&M, and then lose by 20 to Georgia. Sure, great football team, whatever. So I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say they were lucky to win the West because they beat Bama, right? But I mean, Bama doesn't lose that game at Tennessee. That little A&M slip up kind of cost them more than they like. This year they play, as I said, at Bama. They have to go to both Mississippi schools. I don't think any SEC team likes to do that. Not just saying it because I'm a State fan. I'm just saying if you catch Ole Miss, State, and Arkansas are all kind of that team that no one really just loves to play. You don't really gain that much from beating them usually, but you kind of got a lot to lose when you do lose to them, I feel like. So I don't know. Just a tough little tricky schedule. It's week 3 in Starkville, week 5 in Oxford, and then week 9 in Bama. So some in between rest time there, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I like Jaden Daniels. I think he's a good, respectable quarterback. I don't know in the SEC. I don't really know. Kind of like Z said, there's not a lot of establishment there. The big dogs got a lot of question marks, right? Bama, Georgia, Tennessee all got question marks. So even though they have their guys, as far as Joe Milton and Carson Beck and whoever we think Bama's is going to be, no real established guys there, all kind of second string backup guys, whatever. So yeah, I got LSU. I think it can go either way, them or Tennessee, my 3 or 4. Who wants to lead off Tennessee? I'm assuming that's everybody's.
No, I'll go Tennessee. Tennessee's my number 3. Look, I may be buying into the Joe Milton hype a little bit, but just what I've seen him do when he came in last year and then what he's just shown on some videos and stuff you've seen on social media in the offseason. Look, this dude has probably the best throwing arm and the best deep ball we may have ever seen in college football. I mean, this guy can absolutely sling the rock. He's big. He's big, tall. He looks the part. He's got all the intangibles, that kind of thing. Look, he didn't do it great at Michigan, but look, this is a totally different type of offense than he was running at Michigan. And look, they've got talent all over the field. You got Brew McCoy at wide receiver, who's a second-team All-American. And you got obviously they're going to have good players on defense just because, look, it's the SEC. You're always going to have players like that. But I think, and they got a good O-line. They're going to be big. They're going to be better in the trenches. I think they're going to be able to protect Joe Milton better this year. And he's also a quarterback that can get outside the pocket more than they've had in the past. Look, I'm higher on Tennessee overall, especially at the quarterback position than LSU. I think Joe Milton could be a Heisman kind of guy. And that's kind of what makes me lean Tennessee over LSU.
Yeah, and I think we can get the nod either way. Honestly, I think these top 4, we're fantasizing about Georgia being not number 1. I think we all are kind of doing it. So the Bama, LSU, Tennessee, last year they kind of beat up on each other, right? So I don't know. It's gonna be weird, and the big question is Milton. So I mean, that's kind of why I went LSU nod over there. I kind of got a reasoning 2, 3, 4. Like I said, Bama catches LSU at home. LSU kind of having the more established at the quarterback position. Tennessee just trying to replace a guy like Hendon Hooker is never fun. So yeah, they're my 4. That's I don't really have a whole lot on them. I got to see what Milton does. That's the big one. Heupel's been unbelievable since he's got there. I do want to say that if you're a Tennessee fan, man, you got to be happy. Chief, you got anything on the Big Orange?
No, they're my 4. I think it's crazy. I mean, I know we talk about being homers all the time, but we're talking about 4 teams that have a real potential to end the year in the top 10, I think. And it's hard to even pick 3, and we're talking about all in the same conference. Every other conference has been like a top 2, and then there's a gap, and then it's the rest of them. But
Yeah,
I think there's a strong case you can say that Bama and Georgia are in their own, and then everybody else is behind them. But I think the gap is much closer in the SEC.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. You saying top 10. So if this is all going into next year, yeah, I think you can argue all 4 of these teams make the playoff when it goes to 12. I really do. I mean, they're all probably going to have losses to each other in there, and that's probably going to be about it. So that's all I got on the SEC. G, do we want to hammer a little homer here at the end for the people?
Absolutely, I do.
You want to start, or you want me to start?
I can go. It's going to be short and sweet, especially in the transfer portal day and age, and especially with how hard Lane Kiffin's hit the portal. Because defense, I mean, to be honest, I haven't really seen anything, and I'm not one to go in and look at like a player's highlights while they were at Ball State or wherever they were before. Just because it's going to be completely different competition than what they see in the SEC West. So I think the defense is a big question mark, but I'm excited, obviously, with the new hire and Golding to see what our defense can do. I think they'll be tougher, and it won't be so hard to watch. Our whole defense drop back, and then the team running it right up the middle and getting the easy first down. So I'm excited for that. I think our offense returns a lot of experience. I think I've got a few question marks on the wide receiver end, but the backfield with Jackson Dart and Quinshon Judkins, I have a lot of confidence in them. And I think that they'll be able to show up in big games because of the experience. I think Judkins can show up in any game. Even last year, he was that dominant of a running back. And you don't really see that in today's day and age. Kind of what me and Z were talking about earlier. Like, if you have a good running back and a good quarterback in the backfield, the offensive strategy is endless just because if you're not able to pass, they're dropping back, you can hand it off, especially to a caliber running back like Judkins. I'm really excited to see what we do. And then you add in Lane Kiffin's offensive mind to that. I think it's going to cause chaos for a lot of people. It's just going to be how many times are we going to go for it on fourth down and how many stops can we get throughout the game, because I think our offense is going to be able to shoot out with anybody. I really do. But it's just going to be a question of whether we can stop somebody from scoring. So I'm super excited. I'm sure that you have a lot of optimism as well with the coaching change and a kind of a scheme change. So I think it'll be a fun year for both sides of Mississippi fan bases, but I don't think there's anything crazy to expect, which opening day, I'll be expecting it. I mean, obviously, if you give me 2 wins, I'll think, well, we should go undefeated the rest of the season. That's just how college football fans are. But I'm super excited to get it started, and I'm very optimistic. I've always been an optimistic fan, so I'm gonna look on the bright side for the old Rebs.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat as far as when it comes to that. Very optimistic State fan. Might get very pissed off during games. Neither here nor there. I'm gonna try to keep it as short as Joe did. I think this year is, and State's a blue collar team. A lot of disrespect every year. Doesn't really bother me. They're not a national team. I get it. Whatever. Over under at 6 this year in my mind is unbelievable. 8-4 last year, 9-4 with the ball win. Beat a good Illinois tough defense. Didn't flash a lot of offense. Sure, lose Mike Leach. Rest in peace to a legend. Zach Arnett, defense coordinator, comes up, fiery, young coach, players coach in my mind, a football guy, which is so cliche to say, but if you watch any interview, stuff like that, the man straight up is like, I don't know my scheme, right? I find my best 11 players. That's who we're going out. We're hitting people in the mouth. Wants to get back to that Mississippi State football where we get guys from the Delta, get guys from Mississippi, back to that defense Joe G was talking about, stop the run, physical force. Had a great quote from media day saying, you play Mississippi State defense, we want to go back to, pack a lunch and have a hard hat. That's what it used to be. It was just a hard nose. Let's hope State scores 20 points and let's hit people in the mouth. So, flip side, the only difference from a nitty gritty defense, I think now is, like Z talked about, we have Will Rogers, who's one of the most proven quarterbacks in the entire country, whether you like it or not, whether it was he threw 40 checkdowns a game, whether the completions were set up for him. He's a 10,000-yard passer, 4-year starter coming back, or for his 4th year. You don't ever see it in the SEC at the quarterback position. You lose Dylan Johnson, who split reps with Woody Marks in running back spot. He's back. Receiver Justin Robinson turned up towards the end of the year. He was a transfer in from Georgia. Like, the pieces are there. 5 starting linemen back. You rarely hear of that. The defense is the defense, like we've talked about. cornerback year in after year out, going first, second round. D-line's back, probably going to be a four-man front this year, I think, after looking at stuff. And then as far as the schedule goes, LSU and Bama, the only two you're writing off. I mean, people talk about, Arkansas is going to be better this year. A&M is going to be better this year. Ole Miss is the Egg Bowl toss-up. I get all those things, and we went 3-0 against those teams last year. Beat Auburn last year, who's going to be a lot better, but kind of had their number recently, and I get their change and stuff. But I hear it a lot on other pods I listen to, and I'll reiterate it here just in case you haven't heard it. A lot of teams, it seems like, are getting the benefit of the doubt, and the only benefit of the doubt we need is new coach and new scheme, and they're just not getting it. And it's fine. It's Mississippi State. Used to it. It'll honestly be an easier bet to hit, in my opinion. I don't think there's a world we go worse than 7-5. And I'll keep it. My hopes, I'll say, are 8-4 on this pod. In my mind, obviously, I pictured other things happening. Biggest test in my mind is Game 4 at South Carolina. Very winnable on the road, real test. See if the coaches can go over there. Kevin Barbay, offensive coordinator, getting a little bit closer to App State. See if he can bring some magic. And I think that's the biggest game of the year for State at South Carolina. That's all I got. I'm ready. Jiffy, Z-Dog, anything else? Or we can wrap this baby up.
No, I agree with both your guys' points. I'm not really got anything else on the SEC. I think we hammered it pretty good. Yeah. I think the one main point I want to make about the SEC this year that's different than most years in the past is just the maybe not necessarily it's a weaker quarterback conference than we've seen in the past. Which I think it is to a degree, but I think it's a lot more of a unproven quarterback class that you're going to see out there in the SEC. So it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be fun to see what these kids can do, see what these teams turn out to be. Maybe some teams live up to that hype. Maybe some teams aren't as good as everybody thought they were, and then maybe you have a couple sleeper teams who jump up there and they're undefeated when it gets halfway through the year, and you never know what can happen.
Yeah, and I want to add, this is just countrywide. How crazy is it that we have question marks at Georgia, Bama, Tennessee, Ohio State all the same year? Like you said, they all have them, like their guys leave, but to all four top 10 teams, you can argue it's wild that it lined up all together.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Clemson a little bit. Clemson a little bit too. I mean, they had DJ.
Yeah, young quarterback. Hadn't had a lot of game time, so it'll be interesting to see that. UCLA, you don't know what you're going to get after DTR, so there's a lot of question marks, especially at quarterback. A lot more than we've seemed to had in the past.
I do want to leave y'all with a little question. Next week's going to be tough. Week 0 preview. Not a lot there on the plate. We're going to do our best. I've been seeing it. I've been thinking about it. It's hard for me to really break it down. Top 3 players in college football of all time that you wish would have went to your school. Personal opinion, obviously talent opinion, but I say we just hit a little week 0 and then maybe wrap up the end of the week next week with that. But this is a week long. I can't shoot this question to y'all Monday.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna need time. Also, what do y'all got next Tuesday?
Next Tuesday?
Yeah, boss man taking me on fishing trip with salesman, leaving Wednesday morning. Need to do pod Tuesday if we can.
I'm sure.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Sure, I can make it work.
All right, there you go, folks. Just got to hear a little behind the scenes schedule.
Z, also, before we let these folks go on their ride or mowing their lawn or on their run, whatever they're doing while they're listening to this, we don't have to break it down. I just want to know your picks. UFC 292. It's just, guys, me and Z want to do just the main card.
Just the main card?
Yeah, obviously, guys, me and Z, we want to break down all of this, but it's a busy time right now, and it's almost 10 o'clock his time, 9 o'clock my time. So we're just going to give you our picks, and we'll give them to you on Twitter as well in case.
Yeah, we'll obviously have them on Twitter. If you've been following the Ultimate Fighter, those 2 fights are going to be on the prelim, so that'll be pretty cool to watch.
If you want to pick, if you want to give your winners for that, go ahead too.
Okay, yeah. So Brad Katona and Cody Gibson. I'll go Brad Katona. And then Austin Hubbard and Kurt Hollabaugh. I'll go Kurt Hollabaugh. Dennis Tialewin against Gregory Rodriguez. I'm going to go Rodriguez. Chris
RoboCop.
Weidman against – huh?
That's Rodriguez's nickname, RoboCop.
Oh, nice, yeah. Weidman versus Brad Tavares. I'm gonna go Chris Weidman. I love Brad Tavares, but I think it sets up for a good fight for Weidman. And he has a plus 220 on the line. But look, it's the UFC. You never know what can happen. Marlon Vera versus Pedro. I'm gonna go Vera. I'm gonna go Damon Blackshear over Mario Bautista. This fight's interesting because Ian Gary is a minus 490 favorite. He's undefeated. He's this, next Ireland kind of superstar kid. I love him, so I'm going to go Ian Gary. But he did call Neil out. He wasn't supposed to fight Neil. It's kind of, a last-minute fight change there. And Neil obviously wanted the fight to kind of shut him up. So I think the odds are very skewed there just because it's late notice, but I'm still going to go Ian Gary. Obviously going to rock with the champion, Zhang Weili.
Yep.
And then obviously I'm going to go with my boy.
Come on,
the
baby.
Sugar Show.
Come on, baby.
Sugar Sean O'Malley. Knockout early. Sugar Sean.
I like that.
Can we talk odds? Can we talk odds here? You got any odds on that?
On the knockout?
Yeah, you look at that and we'll let G do a little talking. If that's
all right,
your
yeah,
right
I'll hit these because me and Z won't break down all of them. We'll break down the main event. How about that, Z? Is that cool with you?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Okay. So Brad Katona, Cody Gibson, getting on the tough train. I think Brad Katona is the better fighter. But me and Z talked about this a lot. This is a really weird scenario because a lot of these guys that are fighting, that are on the Ultimate Fighter, are like 10-2 fighters that were in the UFC. Like they're all super tough. So they'll belong where they are in the UFC octagon. I like Brad Katona in that one. I like Kurt Hollabaugh as well. I think Austin Hubbard he tries to lull you to sleep, and Kurt Hollabaugh is going to bring the violence. I like Rodriguez, RoboCop as well. I want Weidman to win, but I think his inactivity is gonna be tough for him in the octagon. I know he's at home there, but I think that we've all had an injury before, probably playing a sport, and it's hard to get back in it the first time because you can take as many practice reps as you want, you can kick as many people in shin pads as you want, but once it's shin on shin in the octagon, it's a lot different. For those who don't know, Chris Weidman broke his leg in half in his last fight a couple years ago. So I love Chris Weidman. Obviously, the first guy to beat Anderson Silva in the UFC. But I'm gonna roll with Tavares. I think he's a dangerous fight for him. I haven't talked about this a ton, but Chito Vera is probably, besides McGregor, he's probably my favorite fighter. And I know me and Z will probably the only time we ever really are on opposite sides of a UFC fight is if Cheeto and Suga have a rematch. And I'm not gonna be mad if Suga wins because obviously you gotta like him. But I love Cheeto. So I hope he pulls it out. I think he will. I think it's gonna be a knockout. I like Batista in the bantamweight bout just because Blackshear's coming in on short notice, and flyweights or bantamweights are bantamweights. Like it's kind of hard to be too big unless you are Sugar Sean or Aljo and they're fighting the main. So Ian Gary and Neil Magny, Z hit this one good as well. I think people take for granted short notice fights because the person who's taking the short notice fight, like, yeah, I don't care if it's short notice. They're also taking a short notice fight. So it's not just Neil Magny that's going in with questions to be answered because Ian Gary's been training for a stocky guy, and Neil Magny is really lanky, and he likes to work against the fence with the clinch. I still like Gary, though. I think he'll finish it. He's super technical. And then Lemos is dangerous, but I think Wei Li is just different. Her last fight against Carla Esparza, she really proved it. And then I told Z this earlier. If Aljo gets it to the ground early and he gets him in a body lock and he gets Mount, I think it's going to be an unfortunate night for Suga. But my heart is with Sugar Sean, and I hope he finishes it early because there's not many more exciting fighters right now than him because he wants to keep it up and he wants to chin you. So I think it'll be fun if he can defend those early takedowns and Aljo starts to wane a little bit. It's going to be harder for him to get the takedowns. And then Aljo's funky enough where he's going to have enough confidence to be like, okay, let me just try to stand with this guy. And I think if he does that, Sean will knock him out. So
Couldn't agree
anything
more.
you got, Z?
No.
Give Kohi those odds, and then
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you said about Sugar. But yeah, so the odds, straight up, just money line on the winner. Sugar, depending on the book, it's anywhere from like plus 190 to plus 210, and then for him to win by knockout or TKO is anywhere, depending on the book, plus 330 to plus 350, 360. So it just depends.
how about first round knockout? Is that on there? I want them to ride with you, Z. I want them to
No, I
ride
don't
with
see
you.
first round knockouts not out yet, but for it to
Okay.
end in knockouts plus 175, and
How's
for
the other
it
guy?
for it to be a first round knockout and go and finish in the first round, it's so you could do it if you think Sean's going to win by knockout in the first. It's under half a round is plus 700. So
Oh,
if he doesn't get out of the first round, plus 700.
I like it.
Yeah.
I
I
love
think 2.5 is interesting still at like plus 110.
Right.
But I'm excited. I can't wait to see him. So
Yeah, I think, and it's been like Sugar is really active, and it's been since last October since he's fought. So I
yeah,
think the people have been just absolutely fiending for him to get back in the octagon. I think it's going to be super fun. I can't wait to watch the press conference tomorrow. Once we hang this up before I go to bed, I'm going to watch media day. And when you get a pay per view like this, first of all, I just want to shout out the UFC. Obviously, nobody from there is going to be watching this, but the UFC has put together some of the best cards this year. Like, I think the last 4 or 5 cards me and Z have said this could be the card of the year.
yeah.
And there was a canceled fight on this card that would have made it even better. So, and it's Z's boy Cody Garbrandt. His opponent
Right.
got hurt. So it's just the UFC has been doing a great job of matchmaking. I think they're being smart because they're just trying to put who the fans like in the main events. They couldn't even Duplessis wasn't going to fight Izzy and Sydney, so they found another opponent to throw out. Like, you got to put Izzy and Sydney because that's right next to his house. So, man, I'm excited. I think this one's going to be great, and the ones coming up are going to be great. Obviously, Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev again in October. I think Volk and Izzy are trying to fight on that Sydney card. Man, it's just we're about to have the Holloway and the Korean Zombie fight on a fight night in South Korea. Like, they're just putting
Yeah.
stuff together, man. It's
Yeah,
been
they really are. It's a
awesome
good
as a
thing.
fan.
Yeah.
So that's all I got, though, guys. I just wanted to
Yeah.
hit that real quick.
Oh yeah.
I love it. Send
All
us
right.
home, see.
All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, listen to the pod. Tell your friend's mom to listen to the pod. Turn it up, man. Get ready for some football. For all the UFC fans out there, get ready for the Sugar Show. We're diving in. We're diving in. So get those ears open wide. Pop those headphones in. Turn that volume up in the car, and let these voices just fire you up.
Nothing better than a Z closing.
We'll catch you on the next one.
All right, guys. See y'all.
All right, peace.